Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Perspective, a show where we tackle all types of claims: paranormal, supernatural, God, aliens, souls, you name it. We talk about it and we apply a skeptic's lens to it. I'm your host for the evening, Ethan, and my other host is Dave Warnock. Dave, how are you?
Hey, Ethan, I'm good. I see in the chat everybody's loving that intro music.
Isn't it pretty cool?
That's
I'm
really cool. Yeah, I love it.
I think it's much better than the previous intro. So yeah, it's exciting. We've got some really good calls lined up, which we'll dive into in just a moment. Dave, I hear you are in the process of starting your own call-in show.
I am, and you and I've been talking about it, and I think you're going to produce that thing for me, so the quality is going to be top notch. And we're just kind of putting together the plan, the launch date, all those things. So yeah, we should have an announcement coming in the next few weeks about that.
Looking forward to that. And then also pretty soon, Dr. Daryl Ray will be coming on to talk about the Recovering from Religion Fall Excursion.
Yes.
Which is coming in September. Will you be going to that?
No, we've actually got our a trip planned to travel to Europe in September to get some traveling done while I still can travel overseas, which is going to become more difficult as time goes by. So we're trying to get it done, but I hate to miss that because I love Daryl and I love everything that Recover from Religion stands for. They do great work.
Yeah. And then also I hear we were just talking in the green room that there is going to be an atheist event in Indiana in August, which you'll be attending, and I have the distinct pleasure of being able to MC, which I'm really excited.
Well, it's actually in October. It was going to be in August, and then they had to move it back to September, but because I was going to be out of the country in September, they thought, wow, we can't do it without Dave. So
and apparently like Seth Andrews will be there too.
Yeah, so that's in the works. I'm not sure how much it's nailed down yet, but I think it's working. I think that's what it's looking like.
Well, we have a bunch of callers, so let's go ahead and jump right in. The first one, we have P wants to talk about a paranormal experience they had at home. And also, P, now since I'm speaking to you the first time, I would like to thank you for being a contributing Patreon. So P, you're on with Dave and Ethan. How are you?
Good evening, Ethan, Dave, and Bandaid.
And who? Oh, Bandaid.
Bandaid.
He's not here. You know, Bandaid, my cat, I just hung up these new foams, and he already came right up and scratched some of the foam off. I'm not too happy with him right now. But anyways, what did you want to talk about? I'm sorry?
All power to Bandaid.
Bandaid is the best. Awesome. What did you want to talk about?
Right. Let me make this as concise as possible. So this goes back to the late 1990s. So basically, I came back from home. I came back home from a long day of lectures at classes. And as I was entering into my room, it was around, say, 5 or 6 in the evening. What I perceived through my eyes was that it kind of like looked more cloudy than usual for some reason, and I can't understand what was I seeing right in front of me. Okay, now when I look towards the windows area, okay, something seems to appear in front of me again, and what I perceived at that time was a face, the likeness of someone who is close to me.
May I ask, like, was this like a family member, a friend?
She was basically someone who was very close to me, and I regarded her as my godmother, almost as if my own mother. So we had a very close friendship for more than 5 years. Yeah.
And was this person, were they, you saw an image of them through the window, but were they deceased or alive when you saw this?
Okay. at the moment of this incident, that friend of mine was in hospital. Okay, was in the hospital.
Okay.
I had visited her the day before, and I have no knowledge of whatever that's going on. Okay, so what I saw in front of me was this likeness of her face, and the next thing that happened was basically today I will interpret it as probably what I heard internally, a so-called voice, because there was no one at home, so nobody could corroborate with what I experienced. So basically what I heard was, I am living. Please take care of yourself.
When you say you heard that,
So
you audibly heard this?
Yes.
Or that's the feeling you got from seeing this face?
Yeah, I would more or less say that it is perhaps a feeling within my own mind.
Okay, so there was no audible voice repeating that to you. It was
Exactly.
just okay. All right.
So I would probably not say that it was something that was heard externally. Yeah.
Okay.
So basically, this thing happened quite quickly. So as quickly as it happened to me, as quickly as it went off. So back then, I was a closet Catholic in a Pentecostal home. So I guess it was the result of my Pentecostal upbringing. The first reaction that came from me was, I was afraid that this was going to be, what they call back then, the angel of light happening to me. Okay, so my first reaction was, I made the sign of the cross to protect myself. Okay, and basically I just went on doing my house chores and got dinner ready and all that. So it was about 2 to 3 hours after this incident that I got a call from her neighbor, who is also my confirmation godmother. Okay, that this friend of mine had actually passed away. And then I asked,
I'm sorry, P.
It's okay. So I asked her, what time was this? What time did this occur? So she gave me the time, and it roughly corresponded around the time that I experienced this, but I cannot be sure because I have not seen her death certificate. So, and it was just an estimation. So whether she was alive or she was gone at the time of the apparition, I have no way to verify. So basically, I had to get ready because apparently her body was coming back from the hospital back to her home, and her home was nearby mine. So basically, I had to. I was in a state of shock. I had to be stoic during that period. So basically, it was right up to the time of her funeral that I managed to attend, but I didn't have enough of strength to continue for her burial. But after that, it took me some years to get over her because of the close friendship that we had.
Sorry.
And someone said something quite meaningful to me.
Okay.
That was because I related this incident to that friend of mine, but then that friend of mine told me that perhaps my actual experience of friendship with her should be more meaningful to me than worrying about this one-time occurrence that I can't.
Can we
really.
Can we talk more about this occurrence specifically?
Yeah, sure.
So, are you familiar with pareidolia?
Yes.
It is the just for those watching, it's the tendency for perception to impose a meaningful interpretation on a nebulous visual stimulus. How do you know that that's wasn't what was going on?
Well, firstly was because, as I mentioned earlier, my religious fear was the first reaction. That was something else. And then, of course, gradually, I begin to learn about stuff like what you just mentioned, So those were more or less my so-called process of elimination. So to date, I really don't have any explanation about how or why that occurred to me. But
So
there was just that one experience.
are you open to the possibility that what you had saw, the face in the glass, was nothing more than pareidolia and wasn't necessarily any type of spirit and soul or soul?
Well, I probably at this juncture, I could consider that because it took me a long time.
Sorry,
of
did you
feeling
say
guilty.
you could or couldn't?
Could.
Could. Okay.
Could,
That's what I heard.
could,
Yeah.
Because it took me a very long time to get over this so-called guilt that perhaps she came to say her last goodbye to me, but I didn't get it. So it took me some time, and this process to finally tell myself that she's just gone, that there's really not evidence that she came to say whatever goodbye that my mind wanted to project back at that time. So that was it.
Okay. So you are open to, you're not entirely convinced that it was her coming to say goodbye. You're just thinking that's a possibility and possibly leaning that direction.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think I hear a couple of things in this. When you mentioned your religious baggage, if you will, that you carried into that, you mentioned fear and you mentioned guilt as you were relating this experience, and those were the reactions that you had. You were afraid, and then you carried guilt, and those are the kinds of emotions that religion pours out on us. Guilt and fear, that's the currency they trade in. And rather than just, as Ethan suggested, just looking at this as just something that you imagined because, and in fact, I think as he suggested, that's the most reasonable explanation, is that you were imagining these things. You felt like you saw something, and when you mentioned the word heard, you didn't actually hear it with your ears, but you had a thought about some things, and you imagined a visual perception of something. Those are the most rational explanations, and I think it's healthy for us as humans, as thinking beings, to look for the most rational explanations first, not to go to the irrational or to the supernatural or to the spiritual, because those things don't carry evidence with them. They're not backed by evidence. And so I'm glad to hear you say that you're open to feeling like this was just some things you imagined because you felt a connection with this person, and you were feeling an emotion because they were in health challenge situation, and then they died after that, and then that guilt came upon you because you felt like you didn't respond well to that experience. And I think Ethan and I would love to see you free from that and just able to move forward, realizing that there was nothing about any of that you could have done anything about. It's just the way life happens. And that seems like what I mean, that makes the most sense to me. What do you think?
Yeah, pretty much what you said was also what I have been processing throughout these many years. Of course, I think most of us may know here that coming from my background back then as a closet Catholic in the Pentecostal home, didn't make it any easier, to try to go through some kind of an elimination process.
Right.
So, but even then, back then, I already had some kind of personal skepticism towards, most of the so-called supernatural claims by the church on many issues. And then I had all these personal experiences. So since I can't do much about what the church says, I
Right.
must apply it to my own life first,
Well, I mean, I think the fact that we can get a consensus here and all agree that we're open to saying, I don't know, I think this would be an excellent time to wrap up. Dave, is there anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah, sure.
No, I think I
taking my
appreciate your
call.
open. Yeah, thank you for calling, and appreciate your open-mindedness. And sorry for the loss of your friend, even all those years ago.
Yeah,
And
so thanks again.
P,
Take care.
thank you so much for your
Thank
patience
you.
as well. I really appreciate it.
Welcome. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right, have a good one. Bye.
Sweet guy.
Very, very sweet guy. Okay, so before I take our next caller, there is one person I'm just going to bring on the line for about 10 seconds. Chris, I have repeatedly asked you to not call the show anymore. You have harassed my co-host and other people like V, Eric, Kristen. The list kind of goes on of people you've harassed. So once again, I'm going to repeat the same thing. Please don't call the show, and please don't talk to any of us. I've asked you kindly over and over again. Thanks. Goodbye. Sorry. This went on for months of this guy harassing us endlessly and private messages. And then when I block him on one platform, he moves to another platform, and and then he starts moving on, tagging Jenna and other people. And it's like, just stop. But next up, we have got Pam. Pam wants to talk about living in multiple haunted houses. And if I recall, Pam is also a medium. You're on with Dave and Ethan. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing well, thanks. How are you?
Hi, Pam.
Was I correct that you are a medium?
Yes.
All right. So go ahead and give us your most compelling ghost experience.
Okay, I'll preface that by saying that this started about 45 years ago. I grew up in a house that was built in the 1850s. So originally we thought it was house related, but it was not. Two things I think that are probably really compelling is my mother was raised Catholic, and I am by nature a very skeptical, analytical person. And it was funny because she knew about my experiences with mediumship and the fact that our house was in fact haunted. Although they didn't really like it when we said that. So we would sit down late at night, just the two of us together, and she'd always look around and then sort of whisper, "I have to tell you what happened." Like we were going to put her in a loony bin or something. So for her, the most compelling experience that she relayed to me was it was a Saturday afternoon. She was a big napper and nobody was home. So she thought she'd go and take a quick nap. My dad was out doing errands. So she goes and just like a couple minutes after she lay on the bed, she said, "I was wide awake." She said, the room was really dark. They had blackout curtains. And she said, "Well, your father came in and he grabbed my foot and was shaking it." And she said, I looked at him and said, "All right, smart ass, I'll get up." And she just kind of laughed, and she got up from the bedroom and she walked into the kitchen, and my father was walking in the back door. I had something similar happen to me with someone holding my hand. And again, I was also wide awake.
Okay.
But we would hear music and doors slamming and audible talking, all kinds of things like that. And that's happened in basically every house I've ever lived in. So
why do you think this is?
I'm sorry.
Why do you think this happens to you? What's the purpose of it?
Just to have contact. I mean, it's several members of my family have the same thing. It's actually almost like talking about a member of the family when something like this happens. It's kind of funny because it's never malevolent. It's always just communicating.
To have contact with the dead, you're saying, so that you have contact with the dead.
Yes.
Real quick, Pamela, are you able to speak up a little bit? Some people on the stream are having trouble hearing you. Sorry, Dave, please.
Okay, no problem. How is that better?
Yes, much better. Thank you.
I'm sorry, what was your question?
Oh, that was it. Just, I kind of look at these things as the idea of ghosts being around and communicating with the dead. The first question that comes to my mind is, what's the purpose of that? What's the point of it? Because to me, it doesn't make sense. I don't see, my perspective on it is that I don't see what there is to gain from this and why. And you're just saying it's just to hang out with the dead people and have fun and have conversations, or is that kind of what you're saying?
Not really about. It's not really about hanging out with dead people. That's pretty funny. But in a lot of cases, it's about connecting. And so one of the spirits in my house growing up was my grandfather, and he had died before I was born. And I would ask my mother questions, like I would experience things and hear things, and I would go to my mom and say, "What does this mean?" And she would explain, and the explanation would be exactly the same explanation I got from the other side, things that I had never heard before. And in his case, he was very protective of her. And a lot of times this happens around traumatic experiences. Mm-hmm. When mine first happened, there was a very traumatic experience. And the first spirit came to me and she spoke to me. And, I discussed it. I was 9 years old. So a lot of times it's just communicating, saying, we're here, everything's okay, you're all right. Or sometimes to give guidance. And there are also ones that are just metaphysically attached to the structure that you're living
in. Well, question for you. Would you have the ability to communicate with a dead family member of mine? If that's putting you on the spot, I totally understand. I know we didn't talk about that beforehand. So obviously, no pressure.
I could, being in one thing that actually sort of, not really prevents, but inhibits speaking with another member is pressure and stress. So I would be happy to do that with you off the air.
Deal.
But yeah, I'd be happy to do that. I had an experience not long ago, and I mentioned this in the mediumship thing, where I met somebody for the first time, and I saw a man standing behind him, and I said, "Who is this man?" And I described him head to toe, and this was a member of a ghost hunting group, and he started to cry, and I said, "It's your dad, isn't it?" And he said, "Yeah, my dad just passed away, and that's him." So to me, there was like a lot of, I've tested it, in various stages. And one spirit I saw in my sister's house was the man who built the house. I described him and she said, "Yeah, that was him." And he had died before they ever bought the property. I'd never met him. I'd never seen him. And
so
things like that.
Let me actually ask you this. Because I love the idea of us doing this privately. What information would you need from me to set this reading up?
Nothing.
Okay, awesome. Let me know, I guess, when you're able to do it, and we'll set up a time. Let me know how much time I need to set aside, and if there is a way we can, somehow test this to demonstrably show its reliability, like that would be awesome. So yeah, I mean, that's for me, that's a great point to wrap up. But Dave, did you have any questions?
Well, yeah. So you're saying, Pam, that you're going to do a reading with Ethan and communicate with some of his dead relatives. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes. Now, I will tell you this. Sometimes when somebody comes to me and they'll say, I want to talk to my Aunt Rosie. Aunt Rosie may not necessarily show up. She may show up, but someone else may show up as well, or instead of. I don't have control over that.
So any number of random dead people could show up to get in on the conversation. Are you able to, are they, would it be the kind of thing where Ethan would hear them as well, or you're just hearing them and telling Ethan what they're saying?
Sometimes I just see them. But if they tell me something, most likely it would just be me that would hear them. But I always ask for proof, being the skeptical sort that I am. I always say, give me something that, makes sense.
So,
and that's worked for me in the
past. But none of this makes sense. I'm sorry.
Are you saying that, like, so say I want to communicate with one or two of my dead family members, any dead person could show up and we don't know who it was, but with that.
No, it would be someone related. It would be someone with a connection to you in some way. It wouldn't just be like Joe Schmo from Kokomo.
Oh, okay, cool. That narrows it down. And then can you ask them for something, I guess, convincing to share with you? Like, for instance, in my past experience, it's usually been stuff people can guess, like, oh, he kind of has brown hair, or she thinks you're feeling like this right now. Like, it's never really been anything where my jaw dropped and I was like, whoa, what did you just say? And that would be ideally what I'm looking for, is some type of continuous communication, comparable to like a radio. You turn on the radio and you can go back and forth, have a conversation with them, and then explain to me like everything they've shared with you.
Well, I shared when I did the mediumship call, I shared this. I was doing a ghost tour with one of Josh Warren's groups here, and it's like the #2 ghost tour in the country. So I was working with them as a psychic, and there was this man there, and I saw him, and I just was fighting against this. Someone was just basically sort of like tapping on my brain, and I went to him and I said, I have to ask you this question. I said, I'm seeing a woman. I described her physically. I said, she's holding yarn. There's something to do with making yarn and having sheep, and there's a farm. And he said, I have no idea what you're talking about. And I said, okay, that's really strange, because she's very insistent. And later on, he came up to me and he said, can you tell me that again? And I said, well, sure. And I explained it again. And he said, I don't understand. He's like, my grandmother had a farm and raised sheep, and she made her own yarn, but I just don't see the connection.
So you say you see them, but they don't talk to you. You just see these images.
Sometimes they talk. Yes.
Out loud, where anyone can hear them, or just you?
Usually just me. But like I said, I always ask for some sort of proof. Okay. Like there's no way I possibly could have known about the yarn and the sheep farm.
All right. Well, I think the best place to go from here is, if you could send me a message like after the show, let me know what your availability is and if you're comfortable doing it this week, and what I can do on my end to make sure there's no pressure so we can get the most desirable result.
Right. And I'll sort of give you a few instructions about, being in a quiet place, a few things to do to make it most likely to occur when we meet.
Okay. So serious question. Would it help if I got really, really high? And just kind of, no?
Well,
okay.
No, that's actually a really good question. And people ask me that a lot, and I'll tell you why. I generally refuse to read with people who have been altered in some way. And the only reason for that is they tend to be less focused. And so the less focused you are, the less focused the media is. And that mostly happens
okay.
with tarot. So you'll ask me a specific question, and the answers I'm getting are sort of all over the board because you're not as focused. So, I mean, we can certainly try it both ways. I'm totally amenable to that. But generally, that's the rule about how it works.
Awesome. Well, good news is I am way more focused than I was a few weeks ago. I got my medication switched, and it's nice. So you will definitely get a very focused Ethan.
What if your ghost that shows up is high? What are you going to do then?
Wow. Well, Dave, any last minute questions for Pam before we move on?
No, the only request I have is if you do a reading for me at some point, I wanted to work it out so that Tom Petty shows up to play guitar and sing in the background while we're talking, and that would make it. That would rock.
Okay, so you know Tom Petty.
Oh.
Yeah. We're BFFs. No.
Okay, let me rephrase that. Did he know you?
But I've listened to a lot of his music. Doesn't that count for something?
Well, I've never really had Jim Morrison show up. So far it hasn't happened.
Well, I think he's still alive working at a Burger King in Minneapolis, but that's just what I heard on the internet.
I thought it was Wendy, but
one or the other. I think he back and forth. COVID, he got laid off. Whatever. Great call.
Pam, it was really nice talking to you. Thanks for calling in, and then just send me a message.
Thanks, Pam.
Yeah, I'll be in touch. Thanks,
all right,
guys.
I'll talk to you later.
Thanks.
I'm excited because
Are you going to record this?
I will definitely ask her. I won't record it without her permission, but
right.
Ideally, I would love to record it so I can listen to it. And I mean, she does sound pretty confident in what she can do, which is exciting.
Yeah, I mean, what blows my mind is she's a skeptic who sees ghosts. So
right, and even
there you have it.
I have yet to see one that has presented a convincing argument.
I know.
I still want to keep looking because, hey, what if I can? What if someone can relay messages from the great beyond, or what if we can get confirmation that there is a great beyond? But I do think it needs to be like, as I said earlier, a radio where it's not just I'm getting an H, I'm getting this. Like it needs to be consistent conversation.
Right.
Okay. Next up we have Joe from Illinois. And I don't want to misrepresent you, but it sounds like you believe 5G caused COVID. Is that correct?
Yeah, how's it going, guys?
Good. How are you?
Hey, Joe.
All right, I'm hanging in there.
Good.
So my whole experience. I've been sick for like a year already, and there's a lot of things that I just feel like we're just being lied to in a lot of ways. I don't know.
Okay.
It just doesn't seem like this virus to me, from my experience, doesn't seem like it exists at all.
When you say it doesn't seem like it exists, are you saying there's no such thing as it, or what are you saying?
Yeah, I don't believe this COVID virus exists at all. I believe that 5G and radio frequencies are the cause of it.
So
you're saying two things, though, Joe. You're saying it doesn't exist, and then you're saying 5G caused it.
Well, what I'm saying is the reason why people are getting sick and people are dying is from the radio frequency, the EMFs that we are emitting into the environment. And to me, the whole virus is just kind of a cover up for what the tech that we're pushing out, if that makes any sense.
I see. So the government and the media is lying to us, is what you're saying.
Why?
Yes.
Why would they want to kill their customers? Because as we know, if all these people keep dying, they're not going to sell cell phones. So
Right.
why do you think that is?
Because if you kill off people, yeah, exactly, you're killing your customers, which is bad. But I mean, some of these people, I mean, like Bill Gates has been open about talking about population control and using healthcare and vaccines to curb our population growth.
Well, that's okay. So let's stay away from there, just because that's going to bring us down a whole nother rabbit hole. We'll stick with.
Let me ask you this, Joe. Do you use a cell phone?
Now I cannot. I actually. So let me just. Can I just explain my experience this past year and my illness?
Sure. Just if you could keep it to like the finer, important details.
Okay. So as of March last year, like right in the midst of the lockdown we had, I got sick. I began to have all the similar symptoms. I started one day I had a runny nose. Next day it turned into fatigue and hot and cold flashes, flu, mild symptoms. And just for, by a weekend, I ended up going to the emergency room. I had, chest tension, shortness of breath, all that stuff. I didn't get a cough. And I didn't register a fever, but they noted that my skin was warm at the emergency room. And so the testing really wasn't there yet. Like, they had a tent outside the hospital, but it wasn't up and running. I don't even think anybody was manning the tent when I went there. They were like talking back and forth, like, is the person there yet or whatever. And so anyways, literally like the next day when I came home, the next day or two, I started noticing tingling when I was on my smartphone, where I couldn't touch my screen. It would hurt my fingers and it hurt my wrist. Like, I'd get nerve pain. So
do you know there's actually a name for that? It's called cell phone. Oh crap. They used to call it tennis elbow, but cell phone elbow. And what happens is and I hope I'm explaining this correctly. Your ulnar nerve starts like the cubital tunnel area starts decreasing in size, and what happens is the nerve starts grating against the bone, which then causes this tingling and pain in your fingers and wrists. I actually had that and had to have surgery as a result of it.
Wow. So it started out that way, and at first I was like, okay, what is, kind of paying attention to it, but not really looking too far into it. Just seemed a little odd, because it kind of went away, and I was able to function a little better. So anyways, a couple weeks later, like, I started to notice it again, like in my forearm that I was holding the phone in front of, and I started to get eye pain and headaches whenever I was using my phone, whenever like I was calling or I was online doing stuff, or I'd even get like tightening in my throat and tingling in my tongue. So I became very it's called electromagnetic hypersensitivity, EHS, or microwave illness. I guess it goes back decades. Like, the Russians first termed it as microwave illness. A lot came from military use, people being around radar too much and things like that. Is when it first started to get noticed as a problem. So now it escalated to like, I can't use a cell phone. I had to get rid of my Wi-Fi router from my desk, because I do all my work just like we use our phones for everything. So
well, I have a question.
Why do my work? So I work from my computer.
Real quick, I have a question.
I think you have the same question I do, Ethan. Ask it.
Why are you using a cell phone right now?
I am not using a cell phone.
How are we communicating?
I'm on a landline. I had to install fiber optic.
Well, the question I had, Joe, is why are you being targeted? Why is Bill Gates or whoever's behind this 5G conspiracy, why are they targeting you? I use a cell phone every day, and everyone around me, everyone I know uses cell phones, and I know hundreds of people personally that I've seen use cell phones, and none of them have gotten sick. So why are you being targeted?
I don't think I'm specifically being targeted.
Okay.
A lot of people have actually gotten sick before 5G just from Wi-Fi and using cell phones previously. I didn't know this before I got sick, but researching into it, there's actually disability codes for it and stuff throughout the medical system that have just been.
But why wouldn't we all be getting sick if it's that dangerous?
Right, because the 5G towers are going up like more and more. And also, why? So, do you know there's countries without 5G where people have COVID?
As far as I haven't looked into every single country who has had COVID, but as far as I know, 120 different countries have already started their 5G programs. So
I don't know if it's up to 120. There is a larger list. It's primarily China and the US, I believe South Korea. Please, someone feel free to double check that. But there are a boatload of countries that are that have COVID and have absolutely no 5G.
I don't know. I haven't dug into every single country, but just from looking at the maps that I've looked at, there are 120 countries across the world that have rolled out their 5G. So
yeah, but Ethan's point is that there are countries who haven't and still have COVID cases.
The other question about why aren't you sick and I'm why am I sick and not you?
Mm-hmm.
We all have different tolerances. It's like some people are allergic to cats or dogs. I'm not allergic to cats or dogs. I haven't been allergic to anything in my whole life.
So are you saying like some people are allergic to 5G?
It becomes like an allergic reaction because the immune system kicks in, and it has a negative response in the body. So if you wouldn't mind, I get into the biophysics of,
probably don't need to.
Without a physicist here, I'm gonna pass on the biophysics only because I don't want to let information slip out that can be potentially harmful and mislead people, because we already do have a lot of stations or channels and news cycles that just allow whatever on the air, and I want to be as responsible as possible. So
I respect that 100%.
With, what is it specifically that you think 5G is doing? And why do you think they're, again, using it knowing they're going to kill their customers? Was that because you think they need population control?
I don't have exactly their proper agenda, but there's a lot of money involved in it. There's trillions of dollars involved in it. And it's this whole fourth industrial revolution, right?
Well, that's the point. You with all that money at stake, Joe, you need as many customers as you can get. And every company that uses 5G or Wi-Fi or whatever, they don't want to kill their customers. They want to grow their customer base. So they're not going to do something knowing that it kills them. They're competing against other businesses that use the same technology, and they want every single live customer they can get. So this makes no sense.
You have a valid point there, but there has been zero testing of 5G before they even rolled it out on humans.
No, that's not true.
No, that's completely false.
No, they've tested 5G regularly. In fact, the 5G bandwidth, I wish I had better access to all my memory, but the 5G bandwidth, they've had it for quite a long time. They've only now started rolling it out. And it's been going on for quite some time. So that's definitely not true.
These companies are all in business to make money. That's the only thing they care about is the dollars that they make.
So if you wouldn't mind, let me go into it a little bit as far as the testing and stuff that they've done.
In terms of, what do you mean?
So when we first rolled out cell phones to begin with before, any of these 4G or 5G. When cell phones first started, right, back in the late 80s, this question came up, was the health concerns and the health, is there health hazards or whatnot. So the government gave Motorola $28.5 million to do their own testing. And then when the scientists came back and there was all these negative effects, they actually discredited that scientist and swept it under the rug. And he has come out and said in documentaries that I've seen, if people knew what the damage that could be caused by cell phones, they would never even hit the market. But the demand for them was so great, convenience, economic growth was where things got just pushed to the side and, business rolled on.
So I actually, real quick, I want to interject with 2 questions. Have you tested your 5G theory by perhaps moving and getting away from the tower to see if your health improves?
I did try that because I have a place out in rural Indiana where it's a little more spread out, but I had a problem getting away from my cell phone completely to really test it out properly because, you got to be away from the cell phone completely to really know, right? And out here, I don't use a cell phone, but out there, I was trying to get it hooked up to get a landline, and I was having problems because the landlord owns the property out there. So, unfortunately, I didn't get a good test to see if that would help my body rebound.
And then my second question, can you give me a breakdown and walk me through specifically what 5G is and the technology behind it?
So 5G is, it's actually moving up the spectrum from microwaves to millimeter waves, which is a tighter wave. Doesn't travel as well. That's why it's like
it travels good. It doesn't travel as far.
Right. It doesn't travel as far. Correct. So it has to travel on 3 and 4G, and it piggybacks to cover longer distances. So this millimeter wave technology it goes from microwave technology, oscillates water molecules, where these millimeter waves, they step it up to oxygen molecules. So that affects hemoglobin. So that's where the health issues start.
All right. So here's what I'm going to ask, just because this conversation does make me a little nervous. Would you be willing to put together a list of all your sources, anything I can read or review, the documentaries, everything you've listed here, and send it to me in a Facebook message? Allow me a little time to review everything and increase my knowledge in this area. And then we'll circle back to this conversation after I've had time to review all this. Would you be okay with that?
Oh, absolutely.
Awesome. So before we move on, Dave, did you have any last questions?
No, I think we covered it. I think, Joe, personally, I would just, invite you to ask yourself again the question that I posed to you that you acknowledged you didn't have a good answer for. If these companies that produce the 5G that is killing people, if their goal is to make money and to increase their profits, and yet the very product that they're producing is killing their customer base, I think you need to come up with a good reason for why that makes sense to you, because that in and of itself shows that this theory of yours makes absolutely no sense. And the second thing is watch Better Call Saul. There's a whole storyline in Better Call Saul where his lawyer brother has this same fear of electronics, and it basically ends up ruining his life. Not that that's the true thing, but that's just a show that talks about this very thing.
Right.
All right, Joe, in 30 seconds or less, I'm going to give you the last word.
Okay. Just to hit on Dave's point there, I don't feel like that's my question to answer, because I'm not the one pushing this technology. That's questions for.
But you're the one talking about the theory that this technology is killing people.
Right, but I don't know what their incentive is. Why they don't care? It's harmful, I guess.
That's my point. They can't have an incentive that cuts against their goal of making profits for the shareholders. That's the thing that you're missing.
I guess that's where this COVID cover-up comes into play, because if we don't know, then we just keep using their tech, right?
COVID cover-up. That's where we're at.
Keep paying them their.
So the other thing to keep in mind, Joe, is the amount of secrecy needed to keep this a secret, because we know humans cannot keep their mouths shut. And in order to keep such a large-scale conspiracy theory like this silent, I just don't believe that that's even possible. But
I believe in a couple of years there won't be it won't be able to hide it. It'll just be too obvious.
okay.
So it's all coming out soon.
All right. Well, Joe, get me that information, everything you can. And again, allow me some time to review and follow up. And I appreciate you taking the time to call in today.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate the call.
Yeah. Hey, good talking to you guys. Thanks.
All right. You have a good one.
Have a good one. Bye.
Oh, insert heavy sigh now.
Those calls do actually make me very nervous at times, especially just because you don't want to let too much slip by and you want to be more firm. But
no, I think we pushed back pretty hard.
Yeah. We did pretty good. All right, let's get to our next caller. We have got so Dale wants to talk about a paranormal experience in the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum.
That's a lot. Hello?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm thinking.
Oh, you're trying to decide whether to take this or not.
Yeah.
I thought you had him on. Is that a little bit?
Dale, give me
say
moment.
that again. What you just said?
A paranormal experience in the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum.
Lunatic Asylum. That's a little bit of a scary phrase there.
I agree.
Yeah, that's a little troublesome. I'm not sure that language is that's not okay.
Yeah. Dale, I cannot thank you enough for taking the time to call in and wait on hold. But I'm really hesitant to take a call that involves a paranormal experience inside an asylum. Mental health is a really difficult topic. It is something that's important and something we should talk about, but I really don't feel comfortable mixing those two. If you have another topic maybe we can talk about, that would be great. And again, I'm terribly sorry. I don't like turning anybody down, but that call makes me nervous. Maybe Keith, our lovely call screener, if you can pick up Dale, see if there's another topic he'd be open to discussing, and we can bring him on. And
the phrasing lunatic asylum is what is troubling to me.
And also, I want to thank our lovely call screener, Keith. You rock. And also thank you to all the chat moderators who help us every week. Kaitlyn Beyond, Secular Rarity, Best Name Ever. All of you are awesome. And thank you, Dave, for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks. Glad to be here. I love these, actually.
They're fun. Okay, we'll get to our next caller. We've got Mary had an encounter with an unfriendly spirit. Mary, you're on with Dave and Ethan. How are you doing?
I'm doing terrific. Thank you very much. How are you?
I'm doing well. Nice
Hello.
that we finally get to talk.
Yes.
Oh, what do you got for us?
Well, this happened quite a few years ago, but I was, at the time, my brother-in-law and his children were renting a little house down from my husband's paternal grandmother. And I went over there quite a bit. You know, we visited with the little ones and such. Well, one day they decided they were going to go to Clinton Lake and swim. It was in July and excruciatingly hot. And my brother-in-law was not one for cleaning. The kitchen was, well, yeah, you can imagine. And so he's like, I'll pay you to clean my kitchen. Okay, sure. Not really thinking anything of it. So they left, and I'm standing there at the sink washing dishes. And it's just this little like galley kitchen, and right behind me is the children's bedroom.
Okay.
And this wall that separates the two is actually a concrete wall because it used to be the outer wall of the house. And so I'm standing there washing dishes, and I keep hearing some odd noises, just like I heard a couple of hisses and growling like sounds. And I thought, oh, well, it's the neighbor's dog, or it's a couple of cats fighting, or, you know. But to be safe, I kind of poked my head out the front and back doors, just looking, and it's like, it's nothing, went back to dishes. And I got about another sink full done before I felt cold air behind me. It's like, well, there's no fans in the house. So I went, and just kind of feeling a little uneasy. It's like, I went and I put on some music, you know, kind of drown everything out.
Okay.
And went back to washing dishes, and kind of felt the hair on the back of my neck stand up a few moments later, and kind of looked behind me. As I looked forward again, a knife that had been laying on beside the sink flew at my face, blade first, and embedded itself all the way to the hilt in that cement wall behind me.
Okay.
Now, there was nobody in the house. The neighbors were gone on either side. Both doors were locked. They didn't have any pets, there was zero explanation.
This spirit threw a knife past you, and it embedded itself in the concrete. Did I hear that right?
Yes. It did not want me there, clearly.
What did you do?
I did a banishing ritual in the house.
Okay.
I'm a witch.
Oh, well,
you left that small detail out of the beginning.
I didn't really think it was important.
Well, it's kind of a
practicing witch.
Okay, so
it's kind of an important detail.
Yeah, we should actually dive into that a little bit, because I had an experience where I asked a bunch of witches to curse me on Facebook, and coincidentally, I had a rough couple weeks, but that was due to some personal things going on in my life. However, during that process, my friend is a white witch. She put some white removal spell. I don't believe any of that, like, at all. But if you could,
she did a return to sender spell.
If you return to sender spell,
there's a name for it, Ethan.
Right. So can you walk me through what a witch does? Like, give me one example of something you do. This call just got way more exciting, but also, sorry, real quick, didn't mean to interrupt. I do need to thank, where did it go? Thank you, Kyle Brewer, for the $1 super chat, and Secular Rarity, thanks for the $10 super chat. Just sending love. Ethan and Dave, y'all rock. Okay, cool. Sorry, go ahead. What does a witch do?
Well, first I want to make a differentiation.
Okay.
People think that all Wiccans are witches and all witches are Wiccans, and that's not the case.
Okay.
Wicca is a religion, but witchcraft itself is more of a lifestyle.
So how would you define? Okay, thank you for explaining that. How would you define witch?
A witch is any person, and it can be male or female. They're both called witch. That uses mediums of any sort to manipulate energy for a specific reason or a specific goal.
Okay, so give me an example. What is something you could do to me?
Well, first of all, I don't use any kind of magic that harms others or messes with free will.
Okay.
I'm actually eclectic Wiccan, and we believe as long as you don't hurt anybody, you can do what you want with your magic, but you don't hurt anybody. And we also believe in karma and the law of three. Anything you send out comes back and kicks you in the butt 3 times over.
So I consistently have heard that from all the witches I do know, that they don't like doing bad spells because it comes back threefold.
Yes, it does. And I did hex one time and only once, and I will never do it again because it came back pretty badly. So.
Okay, so what, I guess since you won't do anything negative, what good can you do? Because I could use some good vibes or good fortunes coming up in my life. I mean, there's a lot of cool things going on, but there are some other areas where I could definitely use the assistance of a witch if it will help. So what could you do?
Well, it depends on your need. There's luck spells. There are spells to help with legal troubles. There are protection spells.
Health?
There are curse removal type spells.
Are there spells for health to make one healthy?
Oh, absolutely. Yes,
Okay.
healing.
So there's 2 spells I would humbly request from you. I would like
Absolutely.
a health spell for Dave. Dave, if I'll leave it up to you whether you want to
I'll
say
share.
one.
Yeah, I'll
And
share.
then I would like a luck spell because there's a few areas in my life that I could really use some good luck right now. Would you be able to do that?
I would be more than happy to.
Yes. Dave,
Ethan, your troubles are over, bro.
I hope so. Because there's, like I said, there's 2 areas where I could really use some good luck. Stiletto, thank you for the $5 super chat. Wanted to send some green love. Sorry, Dave.
So here's my deal. Tell me your name again. I'm sorry, I missed it in the beginning. Caller.
It's Mary Work.
Mary, thank you. I have a terminal disease called ALS. It's 100% fatal. I'm sorry?
I'm familiar with it. My mom was a nurse for 18 years, so.
Okay, it's 100% fatal. No one, and so there's no cure and no treatment. I know a lot of Christians who are around this disease, and they all seem to pray and ask God to heal it, and God never does. And I used to be a Christian. I used to believe that God healed things, but I never saw him do that. And I'm not a Christian now. I'm an atheist. But is that something, I mean, if I were to ask you, can you take my ALS away with your good spell? What would your answer be?
Well, first, I do have to say that magic isn't, unfortunately, that powerful.
So it does little things like take a headache away.
It does have its limits because we're literally manipulating the energy that's around us.
So would you be able to?
We can't.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize.
It's okay. And so we can't add energy that isn't already there. And to remove something like a terminal illness would be a really very huge amount of energy would be necessary.
Well,
could a bunch of witches get together and kind of pool your resources and pull off a big one? Come on.
I mean, I am also like a bouncing ball of energy. So if I can lend you some energy to heal Dave, I'm all down to do that.
If a lot of us got together, it would be possible.
Let's do this thing. Let's have a witches conference. I'll speak. You guys do your thing.
Well, I know that they do have several festivals, gatherings for witches and those into witchcraft throughout the summer months. Let's see. I believe
Is that where they get naked and dance around a fire and all that? No.
Ooh, that sounds fun.
You believe what? I'm sorry.
Thank you for the $5 super chat. Oh snap! Looks like the Loax spell worked. Okay, so is there anything just to kind of bring this to a point? Anything you can't cure ALS? Is there anything you could do to improve Dave's health in any way, like possibly slow it down?
It would certainly help with symptoms. Maybe even slow down the progression.
Let's do it.
I had a friend. Her grandfather actually had Alzheimer's, and he was in about mid stages. He was just really starting to get to that point where, you know, they would forget where they are and such. It's really terrible disease. But she opted to do a spell, and she couldn't cure it, sadly, but she was able to slow down the progression of it. The doctors had told him he only had maybe 5 more years. She got him about 15 years before he passed away, and he actually passed away of a heart attack. Of course, he was in his late 80s, so. But unfortunately, magic is limited. I wish it weren't, because, you know, there's so many good things we could do if it weren't limited, but.
Well, I don't know, Dave, where do you want to go with this?
Honestly, I don't know where to go, because I'm a skeptic at heart, and I don't, you know, I believe in things that we can see, and I don't believe in, but I trust things we can see and that there's empirical evidence for, and that we can, you know, I lean toward rational thinking, and so I'm not really into the idea of there being a supernatural world out there that we can manipulate with spells or prayers or any kinds of things like that. I just think I don't see the evidence for that. And I'm not saying that there's harm in what you're doing, Mary. You seem very nice and that you want to do good things for people. But if that's possible, then it's got to also be possible that there are people who can do harm to people through the spiritual manipulation of energy and things like that. And I find that to be a little troublesome to kind of entertain that as a real possibility.
Yeah, because one of the concerns is it can unfortunately give people false hope, or as we've seen in the past, like with faith healing, people believing they'll all of a sudden feel better after the person places their hands on them, and then they will stop seeking medical treatment. And that should never happen. And
agreed.
That's why this conversation is kind of difficult to have, because you know, we've seen the effects of how harmful beliefs like this can be. But in the interest of testing, I know we're connected on Facebook. Would you be willing to just do a health spell on Dave and a luck spell on me? Let us know what you did, how long you think it would take, and I can, I talk to Dave regularly, and I can follow up with you via Facebook if you're okay with that.
I'd be happy to.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Mary. You're a nice person.
Yeah, you are a sweetheart, Mary, and I'm glad you finally got to call in.
Well, thank you for having me.
All right. Well, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and then just when you can, send me a message and let me know, like I said, what you did and what we should expect.
I will definitely do that. You two have a wonderful day.
You too.
Thank you.
I will say this. I really do love how we often get very sweet callers. And while I vehemently disagree with them, it's nice to be able to...
It's a nice conversation. It's a gentle disagreement, kindness, and I think there's room for that. She's a sweetheart.
Yeah. Amanda, thank you for the $5 super chat. Real quick, I'd like to remind everyone that after the show, we go into Discord, where everyone can join. We do a kind of a QA, open floor talk. This Thursday, if you like seeing me cringe, in case you haven't seen me cringe from a couple of last episodes we did on sex, Hannah Vaughn and I are doing a special episode of the Pickup Line, and we will be talking BDSM. And none other than Tangel Wright will be on. And she's promised me some outfits as well as CBT. I don't recommend looking that up because it is painful to think about. My goal for the episode, I told her, please make me cringe as much as you can or make me as uncomfortable, because I'm different than most people in the sense that I like getting pulled out of my comfort zones, especially when it comes to these conversations around sex. Like, I'm really shy. Like, the first time I said masturbate on camera, I was like, hee, like a 12-year-old.
I got to tell you, man, when in the context of BDSM and you started that last sentence, I enjoy being pulled. I started to go, whoa, 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 whoa.
It's, I think these topics are important, and the best way to get me comfortable talking about sex is just throw it all at me, make me as uncomfortable as possible. But that's not for everyone. I wouldn't recommend making other people uncomfortable, but for me, yeah. Okay, let's move on. All right, so we are going to bring Dale back on. He was not in the asylum. What had happened was this is a closed down asylum that Dale had an experience in. So, Dale, you are on with Dave and Ethan. How are you doing?
Oh, thank you very much for taking my call.
Absolutely. How are you?
I'm doing great. And you?
I am doing well. May I ask, have you heard about the show?
I think you had sent me some information about that. Or
duh.
I got it off of Facebook, probably.
Sweet. All right, Dale, what did you want to talk about?
Well, I'd like to talk about my experience. I've been involved in paranormal research for 46 years. And in that time, I've investigated quite a number of different locations with my group. And we were...
Sorry, may I ask a question?
Yes.
Are you like a actual paranormal investigator? Like, do you have all the tools and equipment and stuff?
Yes, we do. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Oh my God. So I'm excited. I have been trying to get someone to take me with them on these paranormal investigations, and the last person had canceled. Would you be open to taking me on some? Because I am in Illinois and I would love to do it.
Absolutely.
Yes. Could you send me a message on, do you have my Facebook by chance?
I have. I think we were communicating through Facebook Messenger.
Yes, I see it. Okay. I'm sending you a follow-up message. Great. Yeah,
Ethan
if we could
is really excited.
I have been dying to take the perspective into the streets and start investigating these hauntings. That would be a lot of fun. But anyways, I will let you finish. I apologize. I just get really excited because I've been dying to go ghost hunting.
Okay.
Dying? Okay, be careful.
I had people in my group or people that were outside of my group in the past that have been skeptics, and what I can't actually say I made believers out of them, but at least they were able to join us and investigate with us.
Did they see any? Did you see anything with the skeptics with you?
No, we did not.
Okay.
First of all, I should probably say that visual sighting is by far the least reported way of experiencing something supernatural, usually through sounds. We didn't hear any sounds either, but that's not uncommon. Sometimes places we go, we don't get any evidence. Sometimes we get some evidence, sometimes we get a lot of evidence. It really depends on the location. When we were at the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum in Western West Virginia, this was an asylum that closed down in 1994. It's an abandoned asylum, abandoned location. We had permission to be there, and we were there in 2015. And it's a large building. It's got 265,000 square feet, 4 floors. Some of them go back to the Civil War. And we were actually being taken floor to floor with a guide, and then given the opportunity to investigate each floor as we went along.
Would you be able to, sorry to interrupt one more time, would you be able to speak a little louder? The audience is having a difficult time hearing you.
Sure, is that better?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. We were there to try to look into various claims of the paranormal that I had read about, researched, and also had been told by the guides that took us through. And one of the stories that we were told, this kind of leads up to my experience, is that there was a female inmate way back when in time that really had a problem with, she was female, and she had problems with anybody with the opposite sex.
Okay.
So if you were a doctor, an orderly, a patient, a visitor, she didn't like you. So I don't know if it had something to do with her condition or whatever. They didn't go into that detail. But she would often throw food at them and curse at them and so forth and so on. So our team at that time, we're kind of a mixed team. We have males and females in our group from all walks of life. We have, a couple of registered nurses and several registered nurses, professional people in our group as well. We, at that time, it was myself and 3 female investigators that were investigating this area, not too far down the corridor where this patient had been existing in real life. So there was a set of isolation cells further down, and those isolation cells were sometimes used for people that were a bit unruly. And
Okay.
we were just we had set up some equipment. We had some EMF detectors, electromagnetic field detectors, which there is a theory that spirits, there are such things as spirits, that there is an energy that survives the death of the body. Einstein said that energy cannot be created nor destroyed. It basically changes form. So, sometimes we believe that if we encounter something paranormal or a spirit or a ghost, it can create or cause deviations in electromagnetic fields that in some cases our equipment will be able to pick up.
Okay.
So we had these devices set up on the floor near the isolation cells. And suddenly my whole left arm literally went to sleep. I mean, it was completely like I had stuck my arm into a freezer.
Okay.
Goosebumps, the hair was standing up on end. We were shooting video at the time in low light conditions, night shot cameras, and took several pictures of my arm. I was only on one side of my body. And this was the interesting part. None of the females felt anything at all. And I attribute that perhaps to that this was that spirit that did not like males, that maybe she was reaching out or lashing out to me at that point. We continue doing our investigating. We have it on videotape that this was going on. that the females were saying that we don't feel no draft, we don't feel no cold. None of the devices we were using to pick up temperature registered anything. And then came the unusual part for me. It wasn't something that was frightening. It wasn't something that I would have ran screaming down the hallways for. But about that time, on the video, you can actually see me kind of grabbing my left side of my rear end. I'll say it nicely, as though I felt a very cold hand or something literally grab me there. And you actually see my hand go down, and immediately, you know, the three females came up to that area. They were within a foot of me anyway at that time, and they began saying they don't feel anything, they don't sense anything, they weren't feeling a draft, they weren't feeling any cold, the thermometers weren't registering anything, any significant change in temperature. And we continued for a bit. We were continued the communication because we thought that perhaps we were onto something here. Okay, that story of that woman lashing out to people from the opposite sex. So we were using a device that we call an obelisk, and an obelisk basically has a speech synthesizer built in, and the idea behind it, at least the idea for when the designer of this designed this particular piece of device, is that it allows spirits to interact with this speech synthesizer, put together vowels and consonants to create words, and then if it's in the phonetic mode, allows them to say entire sentences coming through here. So we asked the question, I asked the question basically after we had these experiences there, or at least I had the experience.
Real quick, it's kind of, I want to kind of bring this to a point because it's going, it's kind of going on a long time. What specifically happened?
This is the last thing I was going to say. Basically, is that I'd asked the question: do you want us to leave, or do you want me to leave? And one word came through: you, meaning me. So it was an interesting experience. It's something that I think we tried to debunk it. We tried to look for a rational explanation. I always look for rational explanations. I'm not the kind of investigator that jumps to conclusions. So we've actually have debunked things during our investigations, or in some cases even recreated things that happened to us that are paranormal, or we thought were paranormal.
So outside of the Einstein quote you gave, how could we prove conclusively that there are like ghosts and spirits? Because regardless of what he said, that doesn't necessarily mean there are, you know, spirits or souls. So how can we demonstrably show that they do exist?
Well, I mean, that's the overall $64,000 question. Is that's what paranormal investigators have been striving for long before I was around, and it'll probably be going on long after I've left this earth myself. I guess through the use of scientific equipment, the equipment is getting better and better. When I first started, I only had a 35 millimeter camera and a cassette tape recorder, and now there's all these different types of equipment that's out there. And I think through the use of that, through the use of different types of cameras and devices, and even personal experiences, I think we're getting closer to that. I mean, what's going to make the breakthrough? It's anybody's guess at this time.
So, what would you say is your most compelling experience where you're like, yep, I know for sure ghosts are real? Like, could you give me a quick example of one?
Besides the one I thought I just told you, that we were in a cave in Tennessee, and this was a cave that we know from documentation that somebody was in fact shot there by a county sheriff. It was used as a moonshine stills, and there was also Indian burial grounds inside it. There were bones of Indians. We were doing an investigation in this cave, and everybody was to the front of me. There was nobody behind me, around my back or anything. They were out there doing other investigating. We were in complete darkness, and something literally just poked me in the back. This is something that during the 46 years I've been doing this, I can count on maybe one hand the amount of times that I've actually been physically interacted with something. So that's something that happens very often to me personally. Even these TV shows, you see these TV shows basically interacting with something every week. They're getting scratched or burned or something like that. This is not something that happens to me very often. I think it's really not the reality of the paranormal to begin with. So I think by spinning around real quickly and seeing there was absolutely nobody behind me at that time, and then later analyzing some of the video footage that we actually captured right after that event, there was apparently some sort of figure standing next to the wall, just about, maybe 3-4 feet behind me.
Okay. Here's what I'd like to do. I would love to, as I specified earlier, set up a day or a weekend with you. I'll buy you lunch or buy you dinner, whatever it takes. And I'd like to bring, a friend or two and some camera equipment and go to like a couple of or wherever the most haunted places are. If there's specific times like evenings that are better, whatever we can do to capture something. Would you be able to help me arrange that?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes. All right. I'm counting on you because the last person today, I really want to do this.
Yeah, and it fell through.
We already have a number of investigations already set up this year, but a lot of them are kind of out of state. We're going to Gettysburg, we're going to Iowa, we're going to Tennessee. But we do have a number of investigations that we're in the planning stages of doing things in both Illinois and Indiana.
Well, that would be awesome. I would, I don't mind making a drive. I don't know, like if I'd make like a 15-hour drive, but I don't mind driving a few hours if I'll get the opportunity to like investigate these things in person, because again, that's what I'm dying to do. That's really all I got, Dave.
Yeah, this is reminding me of a lot of, I don't know if do you identify as a Christian, Dale?
Well, I was raised a Roman Catholic.
Do you believe in an afterlife like heaven and hell?
That's where my differences kind of lie. Because I don't know if there is a heaven or hell, or if it's simply an altered state of consciousness or something else I don't understand.
I was just curious because, this kind of flies in the face of that. If the dead are still hanging around haunting us instead of going to heaven or hell, but that's for another conversation. The real question I have and the skepticism I have around this is correlated to the skepticism I have around Christianity and the claims that Christians make and that I used to actually believe about a supernatural God who did miracles and healed people. And there are still groups around the world today that claim that God is doing this or God is doing that or so-and-so got healed, or people even claim that so-and-so got raised from the dead, or, there's just all these claims and there's never any photographic evidence. There's never any video. And we all carry video cameras in our pockets. We have phones everywhere. We have better and better equipment. And yet the evidence for these kinds of supernatural things never gets any better. It never, we still don't have what you would think we would have.
Is there someone playing music in the background?
Yeah, it's an alarm, Bevan. It's
okay. I don't want to get a copyright strike for the music.
No, it's Alexa giving us an alarm. I need to go shut it off. So sorry.
No, you're fine.
Yeah. So anyway, that's the issue I have is that we have all this technology at our disposal now, and we still don't have anything regarding what I would consider compelling proof for the supernatural world and these events that people are claiming happen. And I just, that's a little, I'm skeptical about that. Excuse me 1 second.
Not that very quickly. Basically, ghosts, I believe, or if you, whether you believe or not, I have a belief that there are spirits or ghosts. They are a very spontaneous phenomena. They're nothing that can be simply brought into under laboratory conditions and studied. It's not like we can do something like that. So the spontaneity of these actions or interactions that people have between themselves and supposedly spirits are very fleeting. Sometimes they're only a matter of seconds in some cases. They're sometimes in a wink of an eye. There are a lot of good photographs on the internet. I have several on my site, which I believe to be authentic images and ones that we've captured and other people have sent me that I have no explanation for. But I tend to not bring so much of the religion into the paranormal. It's sort of like when you say separation of church and state, I say separation of religion and the paranormal. So I try to stay away from that area. But my actually getting involved in the paranormal was to prove possibly the existence of life after death, because I figured if I could definitively in some way, shape, or form prove that ghosts exist, the survival of the soul, if you will, then you actually basically in some way, shape, or form prove that there is an afterlife or there is something that survives the death of the body.
Well, I look forward to looking more into this and definitely sitting down with you. Dave, we got to wrap up this call as we still got a couple more to get through. Any last minute questions?
Nope, that's it. Look forward to your adventure there, Ethan.
Me too. And Dale, did you, in 30 seconds or less, anything you want to wrap up with?
No, I think we covered it pretty well.
Awesome. Well, I thank you for taking the time to call in today, and I look forward to speaking with you soon.
All right. Thank you.
Right.
Thank
Have
you.
a good
Dale.
day.
Appreciate it. Bye.
I hope it works. I really do, because I'm like dying to do this. Hopefully I can drag Kenneth Leonard out for this too, because I think he'd be a really good person to have along for something like this.
Dynamic duo. That'd be awesome.
Yes, it would be a blast.
Get some fucking video, please.
Just
Somebody somewhere, get some video.
I'll be bringing extra phones, cameras.
These ghosts are too quick.
They are. And I want to see something convincing, not like, this hair on the wall moved. Like
There's a shadow over there. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, come on.
Okay, so we have got actually another psychic / medium. And Jacob wants to make the hosts believe. I love that. Jacob, you are on with Ethan and Dave. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Good. Thanks for...
Hey, Jacob, so you want to convert us, huh?
Yes, I'd like to touch and ask you guys a few questions and maybe share some of my own experiences with you guys, and maybe try to get, a few questions of you guys as well, and maybe get a few answers for you guys.
Sure, I'm down.
Bring it.
So, I'm only 19 years old, and I live in Illinois as well. And I feel like my experiences throughout my life have shown very much proof of paranormal existence. I've had this ability since I was very young, like around 4 or 5, when I started to really realize what I was able to do. I believe I got it from one of my distant cousins. She's a female, and she's able to also talk to spirits as well.
Okay.
So I kind of want to answer some of your guys' questions, maybe for me being a psychic medium, about communication.
Sure.
Do you guys have any questions when it comes to actually communicating with spirits? Because
well,
your
yes.
last caller, I really liked the things that he had to say when it came to his beliefs when it comes to the paranormal, like how he said it's kind of a rare occurrence in a way with some people, but with other people like me, it's really not. Like, to be honest, I don't want to be a psychic medium. I don't want to have to live through some of these experiences that I have. And for instance, Dave, have you ever had any paranormal experiences in your life?
Have I? No.
Yeah.
No, and I'm a lot older than 19.
Different is what.
Well, I think perhaps
what
we
makes
should
us
clarify that.
different is
1
what-
second, Jacob. When you were a believer, did you have any paranormal experiences? Because when I was a believer, I did have things happen to me that I couldn't explain that I believed were ghosts. And it was after I became a, atheist and skeptic that I was like, okay, I can't accept that these were ghosts.
Well, that I think speaks to the point of all of this. You kind of see or hear what you believe you will see or hear. There's a preconditioning that goes into this. And I was a believer in a supernatural God for over 35 years. And so I expected to hear God. I expected to see miracles. I expected to see things that I couldn't naturally explain because I believed in a supernatural God. And so when you have an expectation for these kinds of things, it opens up your mind to perceive it. And so to answer the question, as Ethan, I think you spoke to that. When you asked me, Jacob, have I had any paranormal experiences? My cold answer to that now is no. But I would have answered that differently 15, 20 years ago. I would have said, yeah, there were times where I heard God or I saw something that I believe was attributed to a supernatural God. But in those times in my life, I was preconditioned to expect that and to see things and to hear things. So I think that goes a long way to explaining why some people like you, Jacob, and other callers would say that, yes, we see these things and we hear these things because you're preconditioned to believe that you will. That's my honest answer.
Oh, well, my question for you now is preconditioned and how? I wasn't, when I was 4 or 5 years old, my father, I'll tell you a story real quick. My father bought a house from Ruby Draper, and she was a person that, she was really old. She was like in her mid-80s, and her husband on the brink of passing away. And my dad was buying the house actually from her family that was kind of selling it for her. And she ended up passing away with her husband in that home before my dad bought it. And ever since I was little, me being unaware of who my dad bought the house from because I'm only 4 or 5, I'm speaking to this lady, and I'm communicating with her. And I actually treat her like kind of like my grandma to this day. I still hear and talk to her from time to time. Not as much as when I was younger, but that's just one kind of example. I feel like the preconditioning thing doesn't really correlate with that type of experience.
Well, no, I think I would suggest that as a child, we are, and I don't know your childhood experience, but my childhood experience was filled with fantasy, with everything from Disney to movies about ghosts and things that were paranormal and supernatural. It was treated not in a scary way, but in the way that we would think I can talk to animals, for instance, because in the Disney movies they did. And so I think there is preconditioning that comes with being a child. And I don't know, like I said, I don't know your experience, but it would have been very normal for me to think to transition from watching that on a TV screen or playing with a doll that an action figure that I think is alive and talking back to me in my imagination, that we haven't learned how to be cynical and skeptical. We're preconditioned to believe in fairy tales and fantasy. And so I think children are very much predisposed to that.
I would have to disagree with that specific case, but Ethan, if you want to say something, you can.
Yeah, so jumping back to what you had said in the beginning in terms of like if we had any questions regarding communication, what I look for is someone who has the consistent ability to regularly talk and not one of these on-off situations. And as I equated it to earlier, something like a radio, is that what it's like? Like, can you turn it on and then hear a full-on conversation and it be reliable?
So with some experiences, yes, some experiences, no. And this is the part that I know Dave is going to kill me for, because I don't have any scientific evidence or, not a lot of backing to prove some of these claims. But sometimes when I'm talking apparitions, like I also have a paranormal investigation team, and I also work with different clients, and I go to their houses for them, and I help them try to answer some of the questions they might have with their spirituality or their spirit phenomenon problems that they're having. And sometimes there's nothing there, sometimes I feel like they're just imagining things, but other times I go there and I'm able to tell like who lives there, what his previous name was. And sometimes it comes through very, very clear, and I see them like as how they used to live. Other times, it's when they died. I've dealt with suicide cases. I've had loved ones that have came to me and asked me to talk to their deceased loved ones that tragically committed suicide. And sadly, most of those cases, I see them as they last died. I just actually recently dealt with a lady in Mackinac, Illinois, and she committed suicide by shooting herself. And I happened to see her just like how her final moments, basically. And that one was really hard with me. Now that, in that specific case, I already knew what those people's names were and what happened, but there's obviously a bunch of other times that I've done work for clients and they have no clue what could be inside their house or homes or even retail establishments. And I'll go there and I'll help them kind of sort through these problems. My town, Canton, Illinois, is very historical, and I've done, like, I like to say, like 50-60% of the buildings on our square that have loads of history, and I've been able to kind of piece together a lot of different things. I've dealt with 2 to 3 murder cases now. But yeah.
I apologize. Trigger warning. Please, before you talk about like suicide, make sure you give a trigger warning, just because there are people who that need to be careful, things like that. And I apologize, everyone, that I missed that one.
Thank you, Jacob. Hold up a minute, Jacob. First of all, I was a little troubled by that whole tone of the conversation, and it sounds to me like you are when you say clients, you're getting, people are paying you to contact their loved ones No.
I was just trying to think of a term for people I go and help, I guess.
Okay.
May I ask whereabouts in Illinois you are? Are you near Chicago? Don't say like your specific town.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't mind giving my location if that's okay.
Yes, just you can give your town. Just don't give your like address or anything, please.
Okay, I'm not going to. But Canton, Illinois. It's a few hours away from Chicago. I'd say about 3.5 hours.
All right. So if I wanted to, like, if you and me were to talk further, like, or meet up, what could you possibly? How could we test your ability and the reliability of it?
I feel like the best way to do that was you set up someplace that I truly don't know anything about. So you couldn't tell me in advance, which would be kind of, on your end of things. You couldn't tell me, I guess, but you could take me anywhere that might be considered haunted, and I would be able to give you adequate information from there. Obviously, that would
information about what?
Like, not necessarily like a haunting.
What could potentially be there?
Could you tell me anything about like the people who have died in my life? Because
yes.
Oh yes.
Well, no. I'm sorry. It depends. It truly depends on. Now, this is the part that's going to get a little weird here.
Oh, it's already a little weird, Jacob. Sorry, too late for that. Go ahead.
Well, so you guys are kind of scientific, right?
I'm sorry, what?
We're skeptical.
Scientific?
Yeah, we trust science because science
is scientific.
Yeah, go ahead.
So let's just say, for instance, that somebody has a loved one passed on, okay? Their spirit, their soul, and I believe that everybody personally has a soul, okay? That soul, for some reason that is unbeknownst to me, stays here almost like an imprint, okay? And that imprint is like almost like a pre-recorded message in a way, kind of. It's hard to describe, but that's what I see personally, me being a psychic medium. And whether or not that your loved ones stay is something that I don't understand, and that's something that I kind of have to help people with and helping to try to understand. And that's something that can be caused, I feel like, now this is my personal belief, for a few different reasons, and I'm giving a trigger warning. Murders, suicides, I feel like hold a lot more energy, and it almost traps the soul, in my beliefs. And a lot of other, like, let's just say, like, older people that pass on naturally or even from heart attacks or medical causes, I feel like their souls don't stay trapped here. And for the reasons I don't know, and that's what I feel like happens.
Well, that's, to be honest, Jacob, that's a lot of speculation you just unloaded there. Just a lot of, I feel and I believe, this whole notion that, first of all, that there even are spirits and souls. There's no evidence for that whatsoever. And to then speculate that some of them hang around and some of them leave, some of them are trapped because of circumstances surrounding the passing. I think that has a lot of potential to do a lot of damage emotionally to the loved ones of these people. And I'm really, really getting pissed off listening to this. I'm really going to be honest with you, because I'm afraid. I have a good friend whose husband ended his own life, and she had no clue it was coming. And she had no understanding as to why. She had all these questions. And she actually spent a lot of money on mediums, and I'm not saying that you're that way too, but she spent a lot of money that she didn't have, trying to get some answers, trying to get some closure. And when psychics and people, I don't want to be unkind, but people like you who posture these ideas and who put this stuff out there that is completely unverified, without a shred of evidence that it's true, and put these ideas out that some souls are here and some are not, and I'm going to contact some for you and with you, and some of them we can talk to and some of them we can't. It leaves that person, that loved one, in such a place of uncertainty and limbo. When they contact you and you say, well, I don't know, I tried, and she just, we couldn't, and they're then laden with all this guilt or all this stuff of, well, what did I do wrong? And how can I find them? I'm just really troubled by this whole concept.
It's so, well, I have to say I'm with Dave on this, and I do want to continue to approach it with an open mind, and because you do sound genuine. I would like to dig further into this at another time and possibly see what you're capable of, because I have not had any luck in this area. Anytime I meet someone, they tout some pretty remarkable abilities, and then for some odd reason, once they get around me, their powers just magically stop working, or there's an excuse, and it gets frustrating, especially when I have, like, for instance, a family member trying to communicate with another family member who passed away, and going and spending money, and then this person is like telling this family member what my loved one who passed away was saying, and it's just like, and I was getting mad. I'm just like, you don't know that, and now you're putting words in a dead person's mouth. So please, I hope, Jacob, you don't think we're trying to be rude.
No,
just
not at all.
Why this can be.
You sound very sincere and genuine, but I will say you're also very young, and I've experienced a lot of life, and I've dealt with a lot of people who've lost loved ones, and it's a very tender arena, and I get very defensive of them when I feel like they're maybe being manipulated or taken advantage of, not intentionally, maybe with good intentions, but it usually doesn't lead to good things.
I think this is sorry. Go ahead.
Can I say something real quick?
Yeah, please.
I want to comment something on Dave's perspective on spiritual proof. And that is that I would like to show you, both of you, at some point, not tonight because we don't have time. I know you have other people to get to. But I have video recording evidence and, like, photos and EVPs. Yeah, I'm sure you're familiar with EVPs by now. And just other things that aren't just hearsay of me, but other videos that I've collected and other people's videos. Like, I don't mean to say clients, but other people that I've helped, videos that they've given to me, to maybe try to show you guys, so you might have more reasonable evidence to go on, because I would have to completely
I would love that.
disagree.
Ethan's always looking for video and photographic evidence, always.
Well, Dave, I want to ask you something, and I know this is, I don't know how you react to this question, but there's thousands and thousands of people all over the world, not just in the U.S., but all over for thousands of years that have had these types of experiences. And what do you, just because that you haven't had one, and I'm not being rude at all, but to discount everybody else's experiences because of lack of scientific evidence, I feel like is really, really, what's the word? You're kind of doubting a lot of people, thousands of people.
Yes, I am.
Like,
yes, I am. And I always will, because experiences don't mean anything. There are people who believe they talk to Jesus every day, and there are other people who believe they talk to Muhammad every day, and there are other people who believe they talk to Thor every day, and others who, that means nothing. I mean, experiences are a dime a dozen.
But what the actual experience is like, if you don't mind, I'll tell a quick story real quick.
We really don't have to. Oh, do we? Okay.
We do got to wrap up, so make it super quick.
Okay, so I worked for a client. Well, I guess somebody that they didn't give me money, but I'm just using the word as a client. Okay, and I went to their house, and here's the thing about me is that I'm atheist as well too. I don't believe in any God.
You're an atheist. Okay. Sorry.
Yes.
I love this because there are times I bump into some people and they're like, oh, atheists never believe in the supernatural, and that's categorically false. Atheists only lack the belief in a God or gods. But I'm always bewildered how an atheist can lack a belief in God or gods, but then believe in other paranormal things. So just for clarity, you don't believe in any God.
No, I do not.
Interesting. That's puzzling to me, but I'll let you continue.
A few reasons why. Because I've actually talked to different spirits, and I've actually asked them these same questions. Is there an afterlife? Is there a God? And a lot of them answer with the same answer, and that is no. I've heard that from numerous spirits on numerous different occasions. There is no afterlife. And a lot of the spirits that come and talk to me about that, I ask them, well, why are you still here? And a lot of them respond with, I don't know. A lot of them actually can't see anything around them. A lot of them are just stuck. A lot of them see darkness. A lot of them are just purely trapped. And then others, though, are able to actually see me and have a full-on conversation with me. But a lot of the spirits that I've communicated with have just said no. And that's part of the reason why that I feel like I am atheist. But, I also have my own beliefs. My family was never religious in my life at all. So I've never grown up with any religion or anything like that. And it's just how I believe, my personal experiences. And I know, Dave, you said earlier that personal experiences mean nothing. But let me tell my quick story, and then...
Well, we actually... So unfortunately, we're like way over time. We're not going to be able to get to the last caller, unfortunately. So what I am going to do is, one, definitely you're welcome to call back. We do this show every week. It's not going to be the same hosts. Next week will be... Crap, I should have had that information ready. Next week is going to be Kenneth, Leonard, and Arden of Eden.
Next week is going to be crap, you said. So I'm curious to see what that's going to be.
Yeah. And then also the week after that, Secular Rarity will be making his debut on the perspective with Kenneth Leonard. But I'm really excited. Next week is going to be a good week. But you're definitely welcome to call back. But in 30 seconds or less, I'm going to give you the last word. Also, keep in mind, I do want to chat with you more so we can set something up offline.
Okay, well, that's my question is I'd actually like to accept – Dave, where do you live, if you don't mind saying? Do you live in Illinois?
No, I'm in North Carolina.
Well, I'd be more than happy to actually fly you out, and we could all talk in person and maybe do a little adventure, or you can come to one of my clients' houses, or even – this could be.
I'm sorry. Are you bullshitting?
Or
are you being serious right now?
No. Oh, I'm being fully serious.
Make it happen, Ethan. I'm down. I'm bringing my. Yeah.
We are connected via Facebook.
I would fly him out.
That if you can fly him out, dude, that gives me another opportunity to see Dave again. Because, dude, I will say so. I don't know if everyone got to know. I finally got to meet Dave like about 2 weeks ago, and it was really nice. He's a good hugger. And it was just, Dave, you are such like an inspirational and happy person to be around. You're just so fucking chill, and it was pretty cool.
Thank you. So are you, dude?
Thanks.
Yeah, man.
Jacob,
make it. Ethan, get in touch with Ethan. Let's make it happen.
All right, 30 seconds
I
or
would
less. You have the
gladly
last
do
word.
that. That's basically what I wanted to say. I have a bunch of camera equipment you can also use if you want to make a YouTube video or whatever. I have a lot of different equipment. But I'd gladly do that because I want to show you guys a full experience.
Okay.
I honestly think that the last caller that you guys had, I think that he's a great candidate as well if you guys don't choose me. I really respect a lot of the stuff that he had to say, and I think he was being very genuine about everything that he had. Thank you guys so much.
I am so down to do this. Like I said, you and I are connected on Facebook, so let's get this figured out because I want this to happen. And
make it happen,
I
man.
appreciate you taking the time to call in and waiting on hold. And thanks for the conversation.
Yep. Thank you guys so much. Have a good night.
You too.
Thanks, Jacob. Wow. Ethan.
Well, I am skeptical on whether or not he is going to fly you out.
He said he would.
I know.
We have it on
but I'm a
tape.
little hesitant to believe that.
Well, if he does, I mean, I'm not going to spend my own money to come out there and try to talk to spirits, but if he wants to put that together and he'll put the bill, we'll find a time, make it happen.
Definitely. That's the advantage, like being connected with a lot of these callers on Facebook. It's a lot easier to follow up, get them to send us evidence. Problem is, like some of the paranormal investigators, things got canceled, so that's why
just fell through
is in Illinois. I jump on it and I'll just keep hammering home till I actually get to do one of these investigations. So I assure the audience, I will follow up with this, and it is going to be on their end whether this comes through or not, because I am like an excited 5-year-old when it comes to these things.
You do. You jump through the.
I do. I get.
You jump off screen. That's so funny. I love it.
Dave, did you have fun today?
Oh yeah. This. I just always shake my head because, I mean, they're always so sincere and genuine and for the most part nice people. I mean, these callers. It's so different. The show on Atheist Experience that I do regularly now, we just get some of those people are just like, come on, man. But these folks are nice, and I don't know. Yeah, I enjoy these. I'm still looking for evidence, though. Just like you.
Yeah, that's really the goal of this channel, is to have these friendly conversations with people and keep it as polite as possible. And of course, there's times where things go sideways or people flip, but overall, I think it's usually pretty productive.
Yeah, it's very respectful tonight on all sides, and we disagreed vehemently on things and still kept it kind.
Yeah. I would like to thank top tier patrons: Cindy PLAZA, Kenneth, Leonard, Skye, JumpandShoot, Oz, P, Secular Rarity, Philip Leitch, Kaitlyn Beyond, Toast, Richard Gilliver, Sunset Sarge, The Blazing Wizard Pope, and Ameet Mathew. Thank you so much for your patronage. And if you like what I do, consider becoming a patron for as low as $1 a month. Believe me, it helps out. Running these shows does cost money, especially the phone lines. Those add up quickly. So, Dave, what do you got going on?
Not much. I got some pretty wide open spaces in the next few weeks. Nice. Hosting the Atheist Experience July 4th. That's my next slot there.
Special 4th of July show. Mm-hmm. Great.
Me and Matt on that show together, so that'll be nice.
You two make a good pair.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I think so. I think the viewers like our whatever that combo is.
Dynamic. Good cop, bad cop.
Good. Yeah. I don't know which one I am, but yeah.
I just put a link in the chat. For those of you who haven't seen the hot seat, our last episode was with Shannon Q and Kenneth Leonard, and Vila Bianca is the host. And basically, they debated 3 topics while eating progressively hotter wings. And there were so many sound bites.
So funny.
In that episode. This time we've got June 28th. Crap, let me make sure that date's right. June 28th, we're going to have Eric Murphy versus Neil, the 604 Atheist. So again,
nice.
3 new topics. Who will survive all the wings? This Thursday, Tangela will be on the pickup line with Hannah Vaughn, and we will be covering BDSM. Before the pickup line with Ask an Atheist. Crap, who's on Ask an Atheist? Arden of Eden. Yeah, and that's all I got. Dave, thank you so much for doing this. Everyone watching and who stay tuned, watch the whole episode. Thank you. It's pretty awesome. And I hope everyone has a safe and wonderful week. Thanks again, Dave.
All right. Good night.
Crap. And I forgot to say, everyone, join us in the Discord after chat. I'll be in there in about 5 minutes if you want to continue the conversation.